Hey everyone, and welcome. So, the United Nations is about to hit the big 80-0, and you know what that means, right? For anyone gearing up for competitive exams in India, this topic just became super critical. I mean, understanding the UN isn't just a nice to have, it's an absolute must for acing your papers. So let's jump right into this deep dive I've put together to give you that extra edge.
Yeah, 80 years. Just let that sink in for a second. That's 8 decades of trying to manage global diplomacy, of dealing with conflicts, of pushing for development. This anniversary isn't just a birthday party. It puts the UN square in the spotlight. So you can bet it's going to be a hot topic in your exams. We're going to break down everything you need to know so you're totally prepared.
Okay, so here's our game plan for today. We'll kick things off with UN's legacy. Then we'll get into its structure, cover its key functions and some important figures, then zoom in on India's role in all of this. And we'll finish up with the most important part, the exam takeaways. Let's do this. All right, first up, a legacy of global cooperation. To really get what the UN is all about, you've got to understand where it came from. Picture this, the world is in ruins after World War II. The UN was literally born from those ashes, created with one big hope, to succeed where its predecessor, the League of Nations, had, well, pretty spectacularly failed. Okay, before we go any further, let's lock in a super important term, intergovernmental organization. Now, I know it sounds like textbook jargon, but trust me, this is the key to everything. What it means is that the UN is basically a club for countries. It's not a world government calling the shots. It's a place where sovereign states come together to cooperate. Getting this difference is absolutely critical for your answers, so make sure you nail this one down. So how did this all happen? The name itself, United Nations, actually came about in 1942, but the year you really need to remember for your exams is 1945. That's the magic year. The UN Charter gets signed in June, and then, this is the big one, it officially comes into force on October 24th, and that, of course, is the day we celebrate as UN Day every year. So, what's the UN's actual mission? What's its purpose? Well, it all boils down to these four core aims. Think of these as the four massive pillars holding up the entire organization. Everything the UN does, from sending peacekeepers to a conflict zone to pushing for the SDGs, which we'll get to in a bit, it all ties back to one of these four goals. You absolutely have to know these four by heart. Okay, moving on to section 2, the UN's core structure. If the last section was the why, this section is the how. We're talking about the architecture of global governance, the actual machinery that makes it all tick. And let me tell you, this is a topic that examiners just love to ask about. So at the heart of the UN, you've got these 6 main organs. Now, trying to remember all 6 under exam pressure, yeah, that can be tough. So I've got a great mnemonic for you. Just remember this phrase, secure generals economically and through justice. Let's break it down. S for Security Council, G for General Assembly, E for ECOSOC, A for Secretariat, T for Trusteeship Council, and J for the International Court of Justice. See? Super easy to remember. And here's another one that pops up in exams all the time, the 6 official languages. And guess what? We've got another killer mnemonic for this. Just remember, faces are. That's F for French, A for Arabic, C for Chinese, E for English, S for Spanish, and the R at the end is for Russian. Faces are. It's a simple trick, but it works every time. All right, section 3, key functions and figures. We've talked history, we've talked structure. Now, let's get into the real-world impact by looking at the numbers. This part is packed with those crucial facts and figures that are going to make your answers really shine. First up, membership. The UN has 193 member states. I mean, that's pretty much the entire planet, right? And here's a great little trivia bit for your exam. The newest kid on the block is South Sudan, which joined way back in 2011. And what about one of its most visible jobs? Peacekeeping. Right now, there are 11 active UN peacekeeping missions out there in the world. This goes right back to that number 1 aim we talked about, maintaining international peace and security. Now, this next number, this one's a big one. The UN and its different agencies have been awarded the Nobel Peace Prize 12 times. 12! That's a huge testament to the impact of their work, from delivering aid in a crisis to helping broker peace. Okay, so who foots the bill for all this? Well, the UN is funded by its members. And if you look here, you can see the top 3 funders are the USA, China, and Japan. So where does India fit in? For 2024-25, our contribution is about 0.2%. But, and this is a big but, as we're about to see, India's contribution isn't just about money. It's about so much more. But before we get to India's role, let's nail down one more critical term, the SDGs. You've probably heard of them, the Sustainable Development Goals. Basically, these are 17 interconnected goals that are like a blueprint for a better planet. They cover everything from poverty and hunger to climate change and equality. This is the world's to-do list until the year 2030, and you absolutely, positively have to be familiar with them for your exams. All right, section 4, and this is a big one for all of us, India and the United Nations. It's so important to remember that India isn't just another member. We were there from the very beginning, a founding member signing the charter back in 1945. Our role has been huge from day one, and it's still growing and changing today. And this quote right here says it all. One Earth, one family, one future. This beautifully sums up India's entire philosophy on the world stage. You'll recognize it from India's recent G20 presidency, right? It's all about this idea of shared responsibility, which, when you think about it, is exactly what the UN is all about too. So what's India's approach like? It's all about action. And here are the keywords you need to remember. First, South-South cooperation. That's a fancy way of saying developing countries helping other developing countries, and India is a huge champion of this. Second, peacekeeping. India has a long, proud history of contributing troops to UN missions. And third, being a voice for the global South, that is, pushing for a fair, more equitable system for all the developing nations in the world. And all of this leads to a really big question, one that's a cornerstone of India's foreign policy and, you guessed it, a very common exam question. So why exactly does India keep demanding that the UN Security Council be reformed? Here's the answer you need, boiled down. The main argument is simple. The Security Council is stuck in a time warp. It reflects the world of 1945, not today's world. So India's pushing for it to be expanded, to bring more countries to the table, and to make it reflect the geopolitical realities of the 21st century. It's about making the system more inclusive and representative. This is what India means when it talks about reformed multilateralism. Okay, we have covered a ton of ground, so let's bring it all together in our final section. Think of this as your last-minute, super condensed revision checklist. This is the stuff you absolutely have to know. All right, let's do this. Rapid fire. Ready? The UN in a nutshell. Founded 1945, HQ in New York, 193 members. Got it? Good. Its aims: peace and security, development, think SDGs, human rights, and humanitarian aid. The structure: 6 main organs, 6 official languages. And what's the mnemonic? Faces are. Don't forget it. Key numbers: 11 peacekeeping missions, 12 Nobel Prizes. And finally, India's role. We're a founding member. We're big on South-South cooperation. And we are demanding UNSC reform to make it more inclusive, all under the banner of One Earth, One Family, One Future. Seriously, screenshot this slide. This is your revision gold. So, I want to leave you with one final thought to chew on. The UN was built for the world of 1945, but the challenges we face today, climate change, cyber warfare, pandemics, they're completely different. So the big question is, how does this 80-year-old organization stay relevant for the next 80 years? How can it adapt? It's a huge question and one worth thinking about. Thanks so much for joining me for this breakdown, and seriously, all the very best for your exams.